All right, we've got another question here. Today we're going to talk about noise. This is IELTS Speaking, part one, and we have questions here, and we're going to answer these questions. As you know, part one is one of the three main parts of the speaking part in the IELTS examination. It's where you're giving not very long answers, and part two is about more details and descriptions of experience or places or somebody. And the third one, which is part three, is about your personal opinions. So in here, it's usually general information. They start by asking you your name, confirming your identity, obviously asking you simple questions about your life, where you live, where you come from, and then moving to the specific topics like this one. So this is noise, our fourth topic in our new series. Do you live in a noisy area? Is our first question. Do you live in a noisy area? Well, right now I'm traveling in a different city and I'm living in the middle of the city. So somehow, from a distance, there is noise, even though it's not a very noise. But under normal circumstances, this noise is being killed by the nature of the building itself and the rooms being a little bit on the other side of the city. But the hotel itself is on the road. So on the other side, it's really, really noise. And even right now, I can hear cars and motorcycles and a lot of noise from a distance. Question number two, what kinds of noise do you dislike? Well, if it's noise, I just don't like it. I'm a person who prefers to be in quiet places. If it's not necessary, I don't really like to be in very noisy places. For instance, if I were to stay in a city for some time, I usually go in the outskirts of the city. The countryside actually is my favorite if I want to stay for more than 3 months. But when I'm traveling on the road, I don't have much choices, especially if I have some business going on within the city itself. Can you study with background noise? Absolutely no. I mean, I can study, but I don't prefer to do so. My focus is going to shift, obviously, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be totally distracted. The background noise is going to distract me just if the noise is systematic. If it's a conversation that makes sense, I might be tempted to listen to it. But if it's just music playing, sometimes I could focus. And also depends on what I'm studying. Some things don't need a lot of concentration, or some things work better with some music. If I'm just studying a language, let's say maybe checking some Japanese notes, then I don't care. Anything could play in the background. I could just focus and actually learn something. But if I'm trying to read a book, for example, the noise must be um, very specific. If it's music, it shouldn't have lyrics, for instance, just instruments. Then I could try to focus and read the book in that environment. Otherwise, if there is no noise, then it's way better. The next question is silence important to you? Yes, silence is very important for me, as I stated before. When I'm in a quiet place, I feel less pressured. I feel more focused. I can understand better, think more clearly, and you probably communicate better. Even when I go outside, I don't like to go to cafes that are very crowded with a lot of noise. I usually prefer to go to places where I could sit down, probably work, and it should be as quiet as much as possible. So I definitely prefer and would always prefer silence to noise. The last question is, what sounds helps you relax? I think the sound of the rain usually helps me to relax. If it's raining, I can sleep comfortably. If I'm working, I could be more focused. But unfortunately, recently I've been traveling to the cities where it barely rain, and when it rains, it just rains for 2 or 3 minutes. I love to have a place where the rain isn't too heavy, but it's consistent. For example, it rains for hours, but little by little, just rain showers. So that kind of noise or that kind of sound helps me to focus better. And if I'm going to sleep, I sleep deeper. You know, I don't like the specific. music that are created for helping people to sleep, I usually consider them too noise, and instead of helping you to sleep, they just, you know, help you to listen to it. I don't know. It's a weird feeling for me, but it doesn't work for me. But the rain always work. And some people can sleep when the music is playing. I can never do that. It doesn't matter how soft the music is. I'll just be listening to it the whole night. I tried to do this before. The music was just playing and I could never sleep. So the music, and also when the lights are on, I can hardly sleep. I have to be very tired when the lights are on. So any kind of interference, any kind of noise, any kind of lights don't usually help me to sleep or relax. So it has to be very, very specific. If I'm just somewhere, maybe drinking my coffee, reading a book, very slow, with a few lyrics, music that doesn't really disturb you, could probably help me to relax. But as I said, it always depends on the condition and the kind of music and the state of my mind as well. So, guys, that's the end of this part here. To practice these parts, I want you to take your time, open your phone, open the recording parts, and start answering these questions. After finishing, try to listen to your answers. Once you listen to your answers, you'll see how good you are and how you sound. Most people, when we talk a foreign language, for instance, it happens to me with other languages as well. I feel like I am making, or my pronunciation is correct and I'm making correct sentences most of the time, because I cannot really listen to my voice, or the way I'm hearing my voice is different from a person who is next to me. So I prefer to record myself and listen to this voice and try to see where the mistakes are. So if there are any kind of inconsistency in my pronunciation, or having a heavy accent. An accent is not a problem, but heavy accent could affect your pronunciation. So if I'm having those kind of things, I try to work on those as well. So you have to work on those ones. And some people prefer to read, for example, instead of uh, trying to answer questions by themselves, because they're not confident enough to start talking. So if you're that kind of a person, you could actually prepare the answers. Preparing the answer or asking ChatGPT to prepare the answer for you are two different things. If you're going to ask an AI to help you preparing the answer, you're missing the fun of actually being creative at that moment. And when you're being creative with your answers by writing by yourself, you're actually learning and becoming better. Even your speech is going to be better. So after creating these answers, you could read these answers to yourself aloud, trying to get used to the structure, the way you're supposed to answer the questions, and maybe organizing your thoughts and all those kind of good things. And also try to give examples. Not every speech is just a speech by itself. When you give examples, you are saving a lot of time. You're going to talk more, but the kind of examples that we're giving shouldn't be the simple examples. You can't say, for example, my home. You have to give some explanation. You have to describe a little bit. So go with those ones, and the more you practice, the better you become. So best of luck, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of you